Sunshine Law and the following acts. Notice advertised in the Burlington County Times and Camden Courier Post on January 16, 2018, and posted on the bulletin board on the same date. Mr. Burrell?
Here.
Mrs. Colodi?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz? Sorry. Ms. Correa?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Mrs. Catrambone?
I'll answer that. Yeah. You're in the seat, it's okay.
The first order of business is Resolution 2018-179, authorizing an executive session to discuss the following New Jersey American Water tax appeal. I'm sorry? No, that's why I asked you. I thought that was first. No, never mind. Rescind. Let's start with that again. First order of business, Resolution 2018-170, authorizing engineering for Delran Community Park Phase 5 improvements, Jake's Place Playground, in an amount not to exceed $25,000.
I'll make that
Motion?
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2018-171, resolution requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriation in accordance with NJSA 40A:40-87:2018 click it or ticket.
So moved.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next, 2018-172, certifying completion of Delran Community Park Phase 4 project, installation of sports lighting at Delran Community Park.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2018-173, a resolution to affirm the Township of Delran's civil rights policy with respect to all officials, appointees, employees, prospective employees, volunteers, independent contractors, and members of the public that come into contact with the municipal employees, officials, and volunteers.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Resolution 2018-174, an approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Conroe Road Improvements Project.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next is 2018-175, approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Route 130 pedestrian crosswalk safety improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2018-176, an approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the bikeway improvements to Hartford Road.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2018-177, approving a raffle license number 551 for VFW Post 3020, Lambert, Scully, Bozard.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2018-178, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Vermeer chipper through the Sourcewell Purchasing Network in the amount of $58,483.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. And finally, Resolution 2018-179, authorizing an executive session to discuss the following: New Jersey American Water tax appeal.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Colodi?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye. And the first item we have, and Jim, you're right on time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a motion authorizing the advertisement of bids for police uniforms.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Correa?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flode?
Aye.
Mr. Lamont?
Aye. And the first item on our work session agenda is PSE&G road restoration. Jimmy, you're right on.
Thanks. How you doing?
Good.
So as you may be aware, PCG completed main replacement work for several streets. I forget that section of town. Woodcrest. Delcrest. It included the main roads were Baylor, Fordham, Edgewood, and then you have like the little side stub streets of Howard. They went into Maine a little bit. They also went up Leon a little bit. They also did Lake Street off of Norman, and then they did Melrose, which is off of Creek Road. And typically in the past, historically, they've only, did their main replacement and then came back and then replaced their trench. But before, as a condition of the road opening permits that were issued maybe like 6 months ago, they agreed to do a roadway half-width mill and resurfacing of the road over top. So they didn't just focus on the trench, they were going to take care of half the road. I met with them last week, and they finished all the main work, replacement work, and they finished all the services. Now they want to come back and do the road restoration. And I've seen this in other towns in the area where they're also doing main relocation replacement work, where rather than just them repaving just half the road, whereas the rest of the other half of the road remains in its existing condition, where you would have to address one day. They do the whole width of the road, but don't do all the streets, and then you as the council go in and focus on the streets that they don't do at an upcoming road program rather than what you were anticipating going to do that road anyway. We would break it out, and then we came up with like a list of all the streets, how much area that they'd be resurfacing if they did their original plan of just doing the half width, and if they did the full width of certain streets, what would remain for the township to consider. And it comes down to basically Baylor, because Baylor is so long in length, Baylor and a portion of 8th from Chester, that they would basically resurface all of Fordham, Howard, Leon, Edgewood, and Lake. No, sorry. They would do Fordham, Howard, Leon, Edgewood, and Baylor, Fordham intersection, and Melrose. I'm getting confused myself, sorry. Anyway, what it comes down to, if you want to take on the resurfacing of Baylor from Fordham out to Chester, they would resurface the full width of the rest of the streets that they touched.
And I would tell you, and I told you this already, I think it's a great concept that they're willing to do this. And my feeling is, I know council may change here, but if we do and we agree to this, I know Creek's gonna, not Creek, but Baylor's gonna have patches from that building work. So my opinion is, if we do this, I would like to try to get council next year to have Baylor as part of the program, because I don't think it's fair to have the residents have those type of patches through the road. So,
and
I think it's a no-brainer though.
Yeah, and here's the thing, so the biggest roads are Fordham and Edgewood, and then Howard and a portion of Leon. Now the portion of Leon they're doing is only about 700 feet from Fordham, and about 10 years ago or so, New Jersey American Water did a water main replacement. So that one half of the road is all chopped up with their trench repair. So they'd be doing that full section for us right now. The rest of Edgewood and Fordham, the other halves of the road, including Baylor, the other half of the road that they want to be doing, it's not the worst shape, but within 5-10 years, you're probably going to have to address it, and by then you'll probably be doing the full width anyway. So if we can get it done now, you're kind of really giving yourself,
Jim, when they put the mains in on Baylor, what will they repair? They'll just patch it?
Right now, it is patched. It is patched with a trench, a typical trench restoration.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in bad shape.
How long will the people be able to use it?
Well, they can use it now. I mean, it's fine right now. The trench itself is only like 5-6 feet off the curb line.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clean. It's not many people, and you see the trench, but it's not like it's rough. There's not like there's potholes. Mm-hmm. It could last a long time.
Oh, okay.
Certainly if you were to go along with this arrangement, the council would ultimately have to decide when they want to do Baylor. We did talk previously at the end of last year, talk about like a road program over the next few years.
Was Baylor one of them?
No, but in the 2020 road program, we left a slot open for a potential to-be-determined road. And the money we allotted to that slot is exactly the amount we need to cover, yeah.
So we would just maybe.
Yeah, you would have to, yeah.
Move it up.
Yeah, so eventually when you wouldn't be funding it right now, you'd ultimately have to fund the work, but, you know,
Jim,
we talked about past having a dedicated road.
just for my own information, the PSE&G is required to repair the part of the road that they've disturbed? Is that how that works?
Yeah, I mean, they made the initial offer to do the half-width road resurfacing. I'm not gonna say we wouldn't require it initially, but, you know, it was really them coming forward at first, not even arguing, saying, we're just gonna do this.
Oh,
You know, they've been doing this too long and dealing with too many complaints from municipalities that, you know, the trenches fail over time, that now they just go forward with the full the half-width resurfacing once the work is done and some time has elapsed, a lot of trenches. So
right.
all we're saying now is, the half-width is great, but we need the full width, and we understand that, you know, you're not messing with the whole road, you're only messing with a portion.
I like the idea myself, and I understand Ken's point about, you know, this doesn't obligate a new council next year, so we would probably have to reconsider it. The only thing I was concerned about is, if we did this, what does it do to the roads that we've already put in the queue to do? Because those people have waited quite a while, and I certainly wouldn't want to, you know, see them pushed back for something like this, no matter what the,
Yeah.
I mean, I get the good purpose, but you even just said, I think, the one road, maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, we'd have to do it.
Yeah.
The roads we've picked, I don't think can wait 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say, we kind of put a placeholder in the 2020 road program.
Yeah.
Next year, we did have Norman and River Road scheduled, and that might be an issue because the county's fallen behind on their trail work in
Right.
front of the treatment plant, so that might have to wait. So I believe you have a placeholder without impacting any of the roads you previously determined to do, if, in the latest be 2020, if you know, the future council wants to go with that.
Right, understood.
And Baylor, I mean, if worst came to worst, Baylor could last till 2020,
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah, with the trench work, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you do anything on this tonight?
When do you need an answer by?
They want to do the work in October. PSC&G has agreed in principle to the arrangement. We really haven't discussed what kind of formal legal agreement, if anything, would be required.
Right.
If anything, PSC&G would probably want an agreement from you, not necessarily an agreement from them, because they're going to go first, and they're going to do the work. They probably want something saying you're not going to hold them to do anything for Baylor in advance. But I know they've done this in other towns. I know they're doing it in Palmyra right now. I don't know if they actually went to a formal agreement. It's mostly like as part of the road opening permit, we would say, go ahead, you do that, and we'll be responsible for the rest. We probably resolve it in some sort of letter or something to document it.
Is the quality of their work as good as?
Yeah, we'd be inspecting, you know, I met with the contractor already. You know, he's a decent paving contractor. You know, he does all of their repaving work throughout their jurisdiction, so.
And it's up to like your standards of what we do?
Yeah, it's a standard DOT specification that they have to follow, and we'll be there inspecting when they have to do repaving work, and they'll be paying for the inspection.
Okay.
And they'll be doing actually more square yardage of repaving work, you know, pound for pound, through this agreement than they would if they just did it based on, you know, it's not a straight up swap. We're not taking over a Baylor, which is say 10,000 square yards, and they're just paving 10,000.
Yeah.
They'd be paving like, using round numbers, like 8,000 square yards. Now they're paving like 12,000 square yards, and we're just paving like 10,000. If that makes sense real quick.
Yeah.
This is for legal, do we need to delineate those things to make sure that they're up to our standards when they do the road? 'Cause I'd hate like hell to have it done, Jimmy, and we don't like it now.
Well, the resurfacing that they have to do, period, is already established in part of the road opening permit. And now it's just really limits.
Okay.
I think it's simple, straightforward, you call MOUs, memorandum of understanding, this delineates which roads they're gonna do, and the width of the roads, and sort of, Jim can lay it out in the memo, we can attach it, somebody can agree to do as part of their project, so that we know, and we have something in writing, what they're gonna be responsible for, and the roads that we're gonna be responsible for, or they're not gonna be responsible for.
Yeah, it's more like they're not gonna be responsible, because they're
Right.
responsible for them anyway.
Right, right. And then once that's done, does that come back to us again for a vote? Or
No, I think it's now.
We have to do the motion now.
I mean, we could authorize an MOU, and then we can, along the lines of the proposal that Jim's laid out, and we can do it tonight, and then we'll just have a written agreement, which can be signed. Jim, you just need to give me sort of an exhibit of what's, basically what's the, which road they're doing and which.
Okay, yes, they are going to.
Not
I knew that was. Sorry.
That's why I went to law school, so we have to write all this stuff down.
Yeah.
Just put it in a memo form to me, we'll attach a simple agreement, send it up.
I'll send it to you
Jim,
tomorrow.
are there any issues with driveway aprons? Because they're not gonna be touching any concrete, I'm assuming.
They would not be touching any concrete as the, correct.
The right of way, right?
Well, the paved cartway, curb to curb. Now typically when we do a resurfacing program, we'll go in and replace aprons and stuff like that, where over time, previous overlays have kind of partially backfilled the apron. Their intention is not to do any aprons, but they wouldn't be doing any aprons now anyway.
Exactly, they don't do it
They
anymore.
want to put it back exactly the way it was.
Even when they do their half, they don't do aprons.
Yeah,
Is that gonna cause any problems? Do we have any aprons out there that are problematic now?
Probably. I don't know if it's gonna cause problems, I just think it's gonna be, as it is now, it's just gonna stay that way.
So then we're having a motion and have a draft MOU tonight. Am I correct?
I'm okay with that if you're okay.
Touch base on the engineering. They're gonna pay for the engineering?
They're paying for inspection fees. You would ultimately have to pay for any engineering for Baylor.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, they'd be paying inspection fees for inspection of their work.
And they also have to get all the road opening permits, right?
Well, they already have the road.
They already have
permits,
it?
yeah.
Okay. I need a motion to have legal draft a memorandum of understanding between us and Public Service Electric and Gas for the roads delineated in the. Hello?
I'm just thinking.
Well, wait a minute.
I just want to be clear, that, so the roads that they're gonna do the full width is, so for the record, it's all of Fordham, Howard Street, all of Edgewood, and all of Melrose. And they're also gonna be doing the stub end of Baylor, at its intersection with Drexel and Fordham. You'd be taking on all of Baylor and a portion of 8th Street, Lake Street, and a small portion of Brown Street. And that's just because the way everything lines up and then the areas work out. Lake Street makes sense because when you have Norman scheduled for your road program, and you can do Lake Street really easy, probably much easier than to combine that in that project. It's a small extent.
Jim, where's Brown? I don't see Brown on the list.
Brown, it's a typo. It's where it says Maine, it's supposed to be Brown.
Oh.
Jim, this is the best, you think this is the best plan?
I do.
For us going forward with the roads in town like we've been doing, this is a big deal.
Yeah, I think you knock out this whole neighborhood.
Okay. All right, well then I'll make a motion to,
I'll second.
Ms. Correa?
aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Cloete?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Ah,
It's the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Next is a criminal background check ordinance, and I'd like to thank Sue and the attorneys for providing us with the memo. Why don't you start us off with this?
So,
Any questions we go from there?
so this really is a policy decision of the council on whether or not it is going to implement a criminal background check ordinance for youth sports and youth sports organizations that use township athletic fields. We've given you some samples of background check ordinances, and we've also laid out in our memo some of the policy considerations that you're going to have to address. What it means, the cost, who's going to pay for the cost, what is disqualifying on it. The basic policy decision is, obviously, this is to protect the children and so forth and so on. There is a cost generation for it in a lot of communities. The youth sports organization pays for it. And it's really done, there is some administrative issues Typically, however, the actual, and they do the fingerprinting now digitally, actually. It gets sent out to an outside company, the report comes back, there's privacy rights involved here as well. If there comes back with a negative hit, as they say, then it's, you know, it depends on how you structure it, but typically if it's obviously if there's been a conviction of a crime, a disorderly persons offense, a matter that is affecting children, I think we talked about potentially expanding it to include anybody that's lost their licensure for any public office or private office in the state of New Jersey, administratively versus criminal. You know, we can sort of add that to it. The sample ordinance that I gave you from Winslow Township did not go into the administrative piece, but let's say that, give you for instance, let's say there's a dentist, for instance, that is a coach of a youth sport, and that dentist lost their dental license for some administrative reason that wasn't necessarily criminal. It was more ethical, administrative, something more than just not paying their dues, but something that affected their ability. It could be, and we'd have to delineate it, but something that may have stemmed from some inappropriate, improper matter, but administratively, but there wasn't actually a criminal conviction. You can go into that as well. That's not the standard criminal background check ordinance, but you know, if that were the case, it would be if you lost your license or your certificate from a governmental agency for administrative purposes, we can also delineate that as well as maybe one of the reasons why you would be disqualified from getting a permit or a registration to be a youth sports coach in Delran Township.
What would be an example of an administrative disqualification?
Well, for instance, there are things that, I mean, there are charges that are levied against people for crimes of moral turpitude that don't actually result in a conviction, but could result in a state board, be it dentistry, medicine, law, whatever it is, that you would lose your license to practice in that profession or to practice in that vocation that may not have amounted to a conviction of a crime, but the underlying charges are such that it resulted in the loss of the administrative license. It's a very aggressive kind of a background ordinance, but I'm giving you sort of the extremes of things. Can't be because you don't like the person or that kind of stuff. It has to be laid out, it can't be arbitrary. So,
is that commonplace in most of the ordinances, something that extreme?
no, it's commonplace is strictly criminal.
Okay.
In New Jersey, you have 4 levels of felony: 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, and 4th degree, and you also have the 2 type of disorderly persons. Disorderly persons and petty disorderly, they're not crimes, the last 2. And then, of course, you have motor vehicle violations and so forth and so on. I mean, look, if you could, most of these things have general catch-all. If somebody's been convicted of driving while intoxicated, that is not a crime in the state of New Jersey. If you believe that it would affect somebody's ability to be a youth sports coach, maybe drive kids home and things of that nature, you know, that's the kind of thing that you could, the policy decision that you have to make. But strictly limited to crimes and disorderly persons offenses and things that would affect or touch upon children.
I think this is a very, very important ordinance for us to put in place. One for children, but also for the town itself and to protect the town. I know also Jamie had mentioned to me another issue that I think should be incorporated with this ordinance. And not only do we talk about fields, but we should talk, maybe also consider the use of our building and cover all of the facilities that are tied with the township and the responsibilities of the township.
So you mean like the Girl Scouts that use it, or the yoga?
Sure, because it can apply any group, and you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think some of the sample ordinances, are we given, isn't that about people that volunteer, wouldn't that come under that, say the Girl Scouts? Or, I'll tell you what, using the facilities in the township, I think you're right on the line.
Yeah.
See, the first ordinance that's still provided says township-owned facilities.
Right.
Would extend to
Yeah, I thought I had said
I
that.
mean,
And Jeff, thanks for providing us with the sample
Exactly. Jamie did.
Oh, thank you, folks. How's that? I have some other questions, but if you guys have some questions, feel free.
I mean, one question I have goes here, but does this affect the RAC, anything with the events that they put on? They have volunteers that come out. I mean, we use the parks in the town. Are they subject to background checks, or is that something we can carve out? How does that play?
Policy decision.
Okay.
Should be incorporated, it's still part of the, being affiliated to the township, so we should make sure that everybody is.
So people that volunteer, let's say for the Easter egg hunt?
Anything can happen.
Anyone that, well,
Yeah.
I think what we're looking at is that anyone that's dealing with children under the age of 18.
Exactly.
So if there's something with RAC, you know, and I think it ought to be stipulated.
One of the things that Stuart pointed out there in these ordinances is they would be township endorsed programs. So in those instances, most of the ordinances point out that the township pays for those. And that's an option if it's a township authorized event versus, you know, a separate organization. And that would be a decision you have to make as well, if you want to do that.
Yeah. Any idea, Jeff, when it talks about record keeping, you know, and the confidentiality, do you want to keep the records? Do we want the chief to keep the records?
I think it would have to be either me or the chief.
Yeah, I saw that in other samples, but, and it was in the memo too, so I appreciate it. As far as the appeals, I think the appeals should come to us as a council. And as far as penalties, my own feelings, and you guys can weigh in however you feel. I don't know what's wrong with my I think it should be to just disqualify them from being able to work with children under the age of 18. If there's a criminal case, let the courts take that with a fine or anything like that. I don't know about it, you folks, I don't really care to get in it. I think all we're trying to do is safeguard the children here in town.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should just be, they can't work with the children, and then whatever follows from that, or obviously maybe something has happened prior to.
Based on these ordinances, appealing to the council would be unusual, though, wouldn't it? I didn't see that in the.
There is an appeal in the, if you're looking at the.
No, I mean, there's an appeal, but it's usually not to the council.
It's the review committee.
Yeah, I mean, really, again, it's a policy decision how you want to deal
We
with
can
it.
look into that, right now, right?
Yeah, right. What's your feelings?
So what do you
What would normally happen with the council appoint a committee?
Correct.
Okay.
But I've never seen it happen. People typically don't even apply if they have these issues and they're familiar with it. If something does hit, they pretty much withdraw their application. This has been in a few of my towns for some period of time, and I've never seen those. I've never had to convene one of those committees.
Stu, can you have the council?
You can have the council.
Let's do the council.
Either that, or why don't we put it in as the council or
It's designated.
whoever they designate. And that way we can
Yeah,
have a
this way it's
conversation,
covered,
we can have
so-
a conversation down the road about how
That's a
we
good
want to
point.
do that.
That'll work.
I mean, I think to Jeff's point, and I think not having the council insulates it from being a political decision.
Yeah.
I think I like that instead of council or, you know, an elected body.
But what he just mentioned, though, would work. For
Yeah.
now, it's council or
Well,
their
council or
designate.
whoever we designate.
We don't want to hold it up for anything.
But
I mean, in most of the ordinances, it's the chief, the administrator,
Yeah.
and like the head of the recreation department.
I mean,
It
maybe
seems to be
just
pretty
establish
common
that.
in all.
I was just gonna say, that's what I thought, so why don't we do that?
You want to
as
do
opposed
that? That's
us?
fine. I'm not
I mean, not that I want any more work, but
Well, yeah, I
I
was
think
just
it makes
gonna say-
sense not to bog you guys down.
Or to make it,
So you would establish that now tonight then? as part of-
It's in all the
Okay.
ordinances
Yeah.
as to who it is.
Okay,
Yeah, that
that's
goes
fine.
I mean, if you want to add one member of council or something.
No,
I mean,
I'm not,
to balance it, if you feel that's that
no,
important.
I don't think so.
No.
And the only question I had about the penalties, I agree, like, if you don't pass, you shouldn't, but is that set up so that if somebody like keeps showing up to the field and shouldn't be there, the police can say, hey, you gotta go? Is that kind of the teeth?
That's right.
how's that stipulated?
So, and I'm going to look at
I'm
the
just-
Winslow ordinance.
Okay.
It's not allowed.
Yeah.
The Winslow ordinance is your standard violation of a municipal ordinance. It has a fine or imprisonment or both. And that would be anybody that falsified an application, or anybody that is on the field that does not have permission, or anybody that refuses to leave the field. So, again, it has the most teeth that you can have. If you just put, they're disqualified, that's already in the ordinance. This is a penalty for actually violating the ordinance.
Now, what happens if a parent would not be able to coach because of, past indiscretion? Can they come and watch their children play?
They can't.
On the field?
They just can't be a coach.
They can't be a
A
coach.
coach or an assistant coach, they can certainly come.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's a good question, and there's only so much.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want them to be disqualified,
Right.
from
No, I
being
got
able
that.
to watch their children play.
The other question I had was, some of them have like an ID card.
Yes.
Like how would the police, they're the ones enforcing it, know?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think we're gonna have issues, but.
it's in
you know.
disabled. It's in
So I mean,
disabled.
some of them don't, some of them do, so
Yeah.
what's the best?
My recommendation is to have the ID card,
Okay.
because that's good for everybody, so they know about it, and you got, this is a very, very serious issue in a lot of towns, and it only takes one time, right? So,
Now, would would somebody be willing to, hold a meeting of the, let's say, the athletic association and explain this? We'd have to hold a meeting, yes, and then maybe anyone involved with RAC. And this doesn't involve the schools, we're nothing with the schools, right, just so, I think it would be good to have an informational meeting that all the coaches and all of the volunteers would hear it, from a legal point of view.
Well, maybe they'll also gonna make sure they get a copy of the
Yeah,
ordinance. so
get
they
a copy,
understand
but
it.
you know how some people.
No, I got you. Well, they need to
or have
understand it, so.
questions.
There's also a decision that council has to make on the frequency of the checks, and most of them are in the 3-year
Yeah.
area. Is that
Every one of them.
suitable?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I had a question about that. Is it better to have it more often than not? I only asked, it worked for a law firm we were suing Uber for a while, and they never went back and checked the drivers. So that was one of the arguments we made. So is there a point where it's too often, too frequent? Is there a point where you're not getting any benefit if it's 5, 3? Do you feel professionally 3 is a good number in terms of checking back up?
I know that, certainly I wouldn't do it any more frequently than annually, obviously.
Yeah.
But beyond that, and I wouldn't do it any less frequently than 3 years. A lot of the policy decisions that went into some of the 3-year period that we dealt with was that at the time they wanted to implement this, but they didn't, there was an administrative effort and time and expense associated with, and then of course the course to keep doing the fingerprinting, and it's also self-regulating. So if you were to get licensed and get permitted and pass the background check, and then something happened, you'd be automatically be in violation. So somebody did a random check, there'd be a problem. So it really, again, is a policy decision, be it 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. They didn't want to do it too frequently, I know, in Winslow Township, because there was the cost and the administrator, there's the police department, the administrator, they're all involved with all of this. Nobody was saying that it's an important thing, it's one of the most important things you can do, but they felt that was an equal balance and a fair balance. It's really strictly a policy decision.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there language in there that if something happens in that 3-year period, this person is responsible?
Oh,
to let us
absolutely.
know? Okay.
It's
So it
self-executing.
isn't like they're gonna just get their
Okay.
slide
Yeah.
by for 3
And obviously, a new coach is gonna have to go through it as soon as they come up.
Mhm.
And I am under the understanding we're gonna pay, the background check is about $25, is that right?
About 25, but we're looking only to pay, I think, for township
Right, only counts at the AA.
The AA.
Is that, okay.
individual coaches.
Right.
Then I guess they can decide whether they want their own coaches to pay or they'll pay as
Yeah,
an
well,
organization.
When we discussed this last, didn't we say that the AA was already doing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the soccer club does.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
We have a policy for no drinking on the field.
Just tell us who you are.
Joe Brown, chairman of the REC.
We all know you, Joe.
Yeah, I know. We have a policy on the field for no drinking, but what about their narcotics? Because now we're seeing more and more people smoking and coaching. It's getting to be a little bit ridiculous.
What is your policy again, Joe, say again?
Well, we know there's a policy with no alcohol on the field,
Right.
and we, caught people with alcohol, coolers of alcohol, kicked them off the field and stuff,
Okay.
drinking on the fields, but now you got the policy now with the opioids and stuff coming up with coaches being on drugs that shouldn't be on drugs.
So maybe we'll need to look at that ordinance as well, and we have to enforce,
I see kind of a slippery slope, Joe. I don't know.
well,
What am I gonna do? Have somebody start checking prescription?
No, I'm not saying that,
Apparently
but they
they
come to the field high, you can smell it, you can smell it on them, you know what I mean?
Oh,
It just, I mean, they have a script for it's one thing, but they shouldn't be coaching,
right.
you know what I mean, so.
I think that should be looked into by the AA and also it should be part of our ordinance. They're using our fields
Right.
and putting people at risk. I mean, these people are coaching and they should be responsible for the kids. So,
Can that be like, I don't know the expression in that money, some kind of provision in there about, I don't know if it's drugs and alcohol, about any attitude or kind of, is anybody following what I'm
Talking about
talking
rules of conduct?
Yeah, there you go.
I would imagine that the association has their own rules of conduct.
Well, Joe's saying they do that, but they have it only for alcohol,
Right.
and he's worried about it.
Well, aren't our
Some of them
parks
becoming
smoke-free?
different.
Smoke
Yeah, but
there.
they come there,
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of cigarette smoking, but you're saying.
that's-
And they already have it on your books. I mean, obviously, if somebody's out there and they're violating, like, they have illegal drugs, that's already a crime. That's not for us to, it's already out there. There's laws in the books for that.
Yeah.
And if the coach is out there and they're inebriated or they're intoxicated or whatever, and they're acting improperly, I'm sure there's probably, I would think that your association has a code of conduct and that coach would be brought up, because we don't, as I understand, it's a private organization, we allow them to use the fields, but and we certainly can legislate how to use the field, but that would be really more internal, in my opinion,
Of the AA?
to the organization with their own rules of conduct, because now you're gonna start getting involved in regulating how they coach, and
No,
how
I
the
got you.
coaches
Have
fight.
you talked to Bob Kennedy about that?
No, I'm going to because every year, because basketball
Okay.
season's coming up.
Why don't you pursue it with the athletic association
Okay.
and see how he wants to handle it with his bylaw or rules and regulations?
All right.
And then if there's any issues, come back to us.
And I'm thinking, Joe, it probably doesn't belong in this. This is strictly a background check.
Right.
It may belong somewhere else,
Okay.
either in your governing bylaws or the AA's, but, if you need to, after what Ken said, after you talk to Bob, you come back to us, we can take another look if we need to do something else.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I appreciate that, though, Joe, thanks. Anybody else? Do we need a motion, then? What do we,
No, I think we'll get a draft together and it'll be on for first reading.
That's great.
next meeting.
thank you.
When's that?
You have a.
Next meeting is, next
You
meeting.
don't make
Well, I
this.
mean, whenever it's ready. Yeah.
Not whenever you want, soon, right?
Friday,
Sometime
we can
between
get-
1 and 3 years, right, that time?
Whatever, that's a
Sometime
strike
before,
that.
like noon on Friday would be perfect,
There you go.
Thank you. To see you.
Alan, looks like job duty for you there, buddy.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, folks, next is, 312 Orange Street is the agenda item, and I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Yes, we had a property, 312 Arch Street, that we had issues with a couple of years ago, well, we still have issues with, but a couple of years ago, and we cited it, and went to court, and the judge ordered that the property be cleaned up and a lien put on the property, which has been done. And 2 cars were removed from the property, but put on our property, and we didn't have proper authorization to do anything with the cars, so I'm bringing it back. I had some discussions still to find a path for getting those cars, number one, off our property. And then also I had a brief conversation with Eric to go further with respect to 312 Arch, is that we have essentially an absentee owner. And so we want to follow through with that process as well as vacant property ordinance to move to do something there, because there's no positive motion going on there. So, but first and foremost, we wanted to work on the cars and maybe outline what we need to do.
So under our police powers, we do have an abandoned vehicle that was taken care of. Those vehicles were removed to the municipal property, and that tells me that it's time for them to go. We can't sell them because we don't own them. We can't dispose of them because we don't own them. So we have a little bit of a legal problem. We'd love to tell the owner to get his cars out of there, and apparently the owner is absentee, or we don't even know where we'd find this owner. So, as everybody understands, people have rights, property rights, and the only way that I can see forward to this is to actually go to court and get an order from a judge, not a municipal court judge, but a superior court judge. We're gonna have to try to get notice to this, the owner posted on the property. We do sort of an in rem foreclosure, post notice, go to court, give the person notice, an opportunity to be heard, and say if in fact, you don't basically go to the court and say there's an order, if in fact these vehicles are not removed, the township is authorized to dispose of them in any way it sees fit, and the costs associated with that would become a lien against the property.
Yeah, you touched on my question, is that, you know, before we did anything, could we somehow get a hold of these folks to see if they can take the cars from us? I understand that they're taking up room in our place. We don't need that, but whatever we need to do, but if we're gonna contact them one more time, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
If not, are you willing to move forward?
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah, sure.
We'll report back after we make an effort again to contact.
Okay.
There is a family member that lives nearby, which we've tried in the past, but we can do it one more time.
And there's no garage on the property where they could keep it?
It's very strange. How do you let a car go? So the cars,
The whole situation.
yeah, okay. So the cars running, I mean, are they?
Probably not.
Okay. Never mind. And we don't need anything other than that, we'll wait for you to make that other attempt. Okay. Next, Jeff, is a review of the janitorial bids.
Yes, when I sent the memo out, we thought we had the low bidder. It was based upon the attorney's review. Unfortunately, the low bidder didn't provide one of the required documents. And still can touch base on that, but there's a difference of $300 between the low bidder and the second bidder. I understand that the low bidder didn't provide the documents, so we have to disqualify them. And the second low bidder is CNS Cleaning at $34,500. I do have I had called around for references on the low bidder. I haven't gotten through. I've made some phone calls on the second low bidder. But if you guys are want to move forward, we'll have it on the agenda for the public meeting. In the interim, I'll get the references from the towns where they're working.
So if you're okay with it, you're asking the council to basically give you the okay once you feel you're comfortable.
To put it on the agenda.
Okay, my question to you is, if the new low bidder has, let's say, bad references, do you go back to the first low bidder? You can't anymore because then you go back and rebid everything. Okay.
I mean, if that were to come up, we wouldn't put it on the public agenda. We'd come back to you and report.
Okay.
Because the third bidder's not in the game.
Okay.
Financially, you saw some of those.
Yeah, that was comic relief.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they thought it was longer than a year, but you put in per year.
I had Jamie tell me the number twice.
For the sake of you in the audience that may not be able to see this, we had a bid come in per year for $620,000,
Oh, dear Lord.
$250.
I'll do it for 500.
It must be different up in Orange, that's all.
A little bit.
I know the cost of living goes up. And the next is a request from Ott's Tavern to extend the operating hours.
I don't think we can do that.
No, yeah. Right?
Well, what it is, we can't get it done in the time frame. Who provided the memo?
Yeah.
That's it.
You did. You want to speak to that? You want me to speak to that?
Well, I mean, I can just speak about the request that I received. I received it on September 20th. Of course, this was the next meeting. You can, so they're asking to increase their hours on October 28th for the Eagles game, and they would like to start serving at 8 a.m. Currently, our ordinance is 10 a.m.
Everybody knows the Eagles are playing in London that day, and they're starting, I guess it starts at what, 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
And the only way we can amend an ordinance
Starts
is
at
to.
9:30.
Right,
Their game starts at 9:30.
We need another ordinance.
Right, and unfortunately, we don't have time to get an ordinance passed within those time limits, am I correct? We'd love to do it, I think it's a great idea that they're gonna, have a.
Oh, come on, you're a Giant fan.
No,
So am I. So am I.
For the record, I am a Giants fan, but I'm a sports fan first, and I think it's a great idea that they're doing it. And I wish somebody had reached out to their councilman in Ward 2, and I would have tried to tell them about the time limit, and maybe we could have got it done a little bit quicker. But it's just not possible.
Now, I'm not looking to make work for myself, but this issue's gonna come up in future years, the future events, and there are some towns that are doing ordinances to allow, for certain reasons to expand hours, just for certain reasons. I don't know if you want to, because again, slippery slope is a great term, but there's some towns that just don't want to do this every year for one-offs, but, that there are towns that are taking a look at this and allowing expanded hours, assuming they want to allow the expanded hours, by amending their ordinance, saying, here's the reasons why we can. It can only be for, a national sporting event.
Right.
But, you gotta be careful, because then, somebody wants to watch cricket at 3 o'clock in the morning, you got a problem. So, I just leave that, not for now, but.
Yeah, no, for down the road, I think that's a great idea. And again, I don't want to speak for the rest of the council, I think we'd all like to do this. This is a real institution in town, and I think we'd like to be helpful. It's just unfortunate the time limits in getting an ordinance just don't work. Okay, anybody else? Next is the pet photo fundraiser for the Delran Historical Society.
So this question came from Renee Breezy of the Delran Historical Society. We're hosting a rabies clinic on October 6th from 1 to 3 p.m. and they thought that it would be a good idea to, as a fundraiser, offer for a donation to the Historical Society a pet photo shoot. They have an antique truck, and they thought fall decorations and, that kind of setup and, residents.
And where are they gonna do this?
Well, we have our rabies clinic in the pole barn, which is just kind of down here at the end of the building. And I'm assuming they would set up somewhere in the parking lot.
I don't have a problem, I think it's a great idea.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. We need to do anything?
I guess just a motion authorizing it. I haven't spoken to her, I did tell her that it's going to be on the agenda. They were a little concerned about the shortness of time. Coming up.
Yeah, I'm
next
sorry, I
Saturday,
missed it when you said the date is.
October 6th. And
Yeah,
getting
that
the
is-
word out, and so I'm not 100% sure that they're moving forward, but I think we should just do this.
Sure.
Yeah, include any pets, if somebody has a lion or a tiger or something, or.
This is dogs and cats.
You never know what you get, somebody shows up with a boa.
I think we should limit it to dogs and cats.
Just throw that out there.
And motion to approve the pet photo fundraiser for the Delran Historical Society.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Gladly.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It carries. And last, a motion to enter, no. Yeah, reports by members of council, and I guess we're starting. Jimmy, do you have anything else for us?
I just want to give you an update. I don't know, I've seen a lot of work going on in town. The one contractor, Diamond Developers, is currently doing sidewalks along Route 130. Great. Thanks. So they don't have much more left to do, maybe a couple more weeks. And then our road program contractor is currently working on Lichtenthal. He's got most of the concrete work done on Lichtenthal. He's going to be moving to Lytle next with the concrete work. That's going to be taking 1 or 2 weeks. And they're going to be actually starting the road repaving on Lichtenthal within the next couple of weeks. And then the concrete contractor, once he finishes Lytle, which will only take about a week, he'll be moving over to Antietam and Whitmore. And then Hartford Road to follow.
Quick question, I know Patty brought it up, the recreation grant, the county grant? Yeah, no, the county grant.
Yeah.
We're keeping our eyes open for it, right? And then we would have to also determine how we're gonna be applying that money until there, correct?
It's not out yet though.
No, I'm just saying.
When does that come out?
There's no time zero.
Oh, it's
I mean,
just
it's
random.
always been random, and I know
You're keeping
they're
your
due,
eye-
it's due.
Now.
I mean, you would expect it's been a while since the last one came out, so, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to come up with it. We still have the lighting over there, we still have the top paving of the roads over there, and there's a lot of things.
The people on Wigmore are beyond ecstatic. I was walking my dog the other day. They saw the markings. Is this the road? I think so. So they were.
Yeah, they'll know, they'll get the marking.
Very
Yeah.
excited.
I know, I think that some of the people like the ball.
Good.
But they didn't see the road paved yet.
Yeah.
And the roof is generally done except for the skylight, and the contractor, the sky doctor, is scheduling to come out here hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and that should finish it up.
They'll paint that when they're done.
Yes, yeah, the work's not done to the skylight.
Right. How's it going?
It's good, everything else is done. Garland
Everything
told
looks
me
pretty
they
good.
want to actually take pictures of it and put it in their promotional
Great.
flyers that it came out so well.
They don't rebate for that.
Maybe advertising. So I tell like when I buy a new car, the license plate holder,
Yeah.
you will leave that on, you gotta pay.
And have the CME tied in with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. Tyler?
No report, thank you.
Patty?
Yeah, just, we had talked about having a veterans commemoration again this year. We didn't have it last year.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if the council was still willing to do that. And if so, what date would be good? Obviously, we can't have it on Veterans Day because the veterans usually go to their, so I was looking in November, we could do it like the 8th, which would be the Thursday before, or the 12th, or the 14th after. I don't think we should have it on a day of a meeting because I thought we'd have like a little reception afterwards for them. And Jeff, did you check out and how does that look, the room back there?
There's room.
Okay.
You could easily sit, I mean, there's enough tables right now for 60 set up, but
Oh,
there's more
wow.
tables there as well.
Yeah, and we could fit the
You
people.
can definitely.
So that's what I was wondering, would the council be willing to, first of all, have something, and then have like a little reception right here at the town hall? And it's the 50th year of 1968, like the Tet Offensive, and I was gonna try to get a speaker, maybe that was in Quezon or Way, something that would draw people to come. And, but and the RAC, Joe and Tyler said that they would be willing to help fund some of it, and I thought maybe I would get the Vietnam class involved and go to the, veterans, the Knights of Columbus, the VFW, the
Right.
Knights of Columbus to advertise. The last one, I think the first three we had were good, were well attended. The last one was not well attended, but I think that was partially me too with, I didn't do the best job on that one. So I'd like to, maybe make this one a special one for the 50th anniversary, but, World War II veterans as well, and Korea, and Iraq, Afghanistan, that kind of thing.
Well, Veterans Day is November 12th,
Yeah, that would be
That's
what,
a Monday.
Monday, so.
and we have a council meeting on Tuesday.
Mhm.
The following week is Thanksgiving week.
What about maybe the week before, like the 7th, 8th, 9th, 8th? Is there anything in the bill? Well, how about I'll talk to you, JV, and see what's,
That week's better, I mean, while you're on it, the week after, or the days after the 12th is actually the league.
Oh, right,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Probably
the
gonna
week
want
of
to
the-
change that meeting date.
Oh, okay.
oh, okay. So is the league that Tuesday too? It is that
It's
Tuesday?
the 14th, 15th, and 16th,
The whole week,
or 13th, 14th. and
13th, 14th, okay.
But
Well,
I
maybe,
remember, Patty, when we talked about not doing it this year, or last
Last
year,
year.
that we would pick it up again this year.
yes,
so-
yeah, so is it all right that if we
Yeah.
start just planning it?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
maybe we'll do the week before then, maybe, how's the 8th? That would be a Thursday night, because people are usually busy on Friday,
Yeah.
planning board meeting.
Oh, is it the first of Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is no,
second.
it's the second,
Oh,
it's the
okay,
second,
then
so,
that would be good.
how about we put tentatively the 8th?
Okay.
All right. And I'll, you know, talk to the RAC, and then I'll have something for you, let's say by the next, maybe we can announce it at the public meeting, but by the next work session.
And if I can hope it all.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep me in mind.
And if anyone knows anyone that might be a great speaker, it doesn't have to be, I'm just thinking, you know, 50th anniversary for the Tet Offensive, but something, a World War II veteran, or even Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, is somebody that you think would be good for other people to come and listen to and hear, you know, maybe an Army a military surgeon, a chaplain, a Medal of Honor winner or something, you know. So, well, everyone, huh? Yeah, I know, hey, what the heck? But,
Everybody knows one then.
yeah. But we'll try to get somebody, you know, that
Sure.
might be,
Well, I know we had Sal one year, and his talk about his experiences
yeah.
was pretty incredible. It'd be nice to get somebody like that.
Yes, yeah. All right, I'll try, but if anyone has
Matter
any
of fact, maybe you
suggestions.
could ask him. I mean, not asking him again,
Getting somebody.
ask him about
Yeah.
getting somebody.
Mhm.
That would be an idea.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you, and
Thanks,
thanks for
Patty.
your support. And that's it.
Good, no, you're,
I'm next. I just have the one thing, and that is to let everybody know that we're coming to the end of branch collection, and starting October 1st, I believe, or beginning on or around October 2nd, we're gonna start picking, take that all back, let's start. The brush pickup will begin end October 1st, and leaf pickup will start October 8th. Please have all your leaves curbside by December 1st, 2018. The final pickup will begin the week of December 2nd, 2018. And that's all I have. Now you, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, I want to hand a couple things out to some people. I want to take that power. This is something that was on social media last week. Yeah. You can share it, yeah. Basically, it's almost like trying, a president of council is trying to stir up people to come out and rebel against me. So I basically want to put an end to all this, and I put a report together. And I'll read it to you. I'd like to address the most recent accusations made by President Catrambone, both in the press and online forums, in an effort yet again to ruin my reputation over the Stellwag property. Let me explain again. First, in this form of government, Delran Township, which is the Faulkner Act, I have no vote. So I didn't vote on anything, nor do I have the authority to. Second, I have no interest financially or otherwise in the property or the redevelopment. And third, I didn't negotiate anything. The council negotiates all developments and projects. It was their decision. They all voted. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't push the project along. The township solicitor knew all about Jeff Lucas's participation. I fully vetted the residing solicitor and relied on his advice. He told me there was no problem whatsoever. I have my correspondence to him here. I have his letter back, basically saying, you know, if I have to, I'd read it, saying that there wasn't an issue. Patty, you saw this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Back in
Yeah.
April. Okay. Just want to confirm that.
Mhm.
Now I realize that I should never have relied on what the attorney said. I was not told that it could appear unethical. That is why I recused myself from this matter when it was in question. I wasn't involved with the decision or the abatement. It was a council decision. Another item that needs to be clarified is that I wrote to the Department of Community Affairs about the issue, which is this letter right here, done in April, about this issue, and provided them all the pertinent information before Council President Catrambone decided to contact them. So I was being totally upfront and transparent with them as well. To date, they never said I did anything wrong. This is a political witch hunt orchestrated by Gary Catrambone because he always wanted to be mayor. He tried desperately to get me to step down by politicos as well as by council members. They even tried to negotiate deals for him to be mayor this year, since there's a strong feeling that the Democrats are going to take over Burlington County, and he would have an easier time winning, since he would have to run this November if I would have vacated my seat. Patty and Tyler, you remember those conversations we had?
Yes.
Thank you. Tyler?
Please continue.
You're gonna ignore that, okay? Thank you though, Tyler, because you were involved with those negotiations. He would have Gary Catrambone and Herb Conaway, our wonderful assemblyman who resides now in Delran, even went to the extreme to remove my wife and I after we served 12 years, and I still being mayor, from the Delran Democratic Committee as representative of our district. Dan, you know that's true?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that they were
They
looking
did.
to remove.
They removed me
No,
too.
no, hold on.
And you did know.
No, you wanna let me answer, or you wanna answer my own
Want me
question?
to play a recording?
I don't care what
Okay,
you
go
wanna
ahead.
do. First of all, if you recorded my conversations, I just wanna let everybody know, you never let me know that.
That's fine.
Well, that's pretty
Okay.
low.
That's fine.
All right.
Unfortunately, I have to. run all the-
What I was told
Go
is that Assemblyman Conaway, having moved into the town, had always been on county committee and wanted to be on county committee. As far as removing you and your wife, that was something that's done at the party level. I have nothing to do with that.
Who
You
told
me about-
who told you that Herb moved in and that wanted to be on
I
there?
think you did when I came to your
No,
house.
Jack.
You called me.
Yes, I
You
did,
called-
I did
you
call
called me
you,
and told
and you
me.
knew about it.
Well, I did when you told me about
No,
it.
you knew it.
All right,
We're not
whatever.
talking about it.
But you did tell me to.
No, I did tell you, yes. Okay, but that was done, to me and my wife.
Okay, but that,
And
can
you
I ask
guys
a
knew
question?
about it.
That has nothing to do with council here, so go
Well, but
ahead.
you-
I understand this is about your reputation.
It
Please
definitely
continue.
is.
Please continue.
I am the mayor who was elected by the residents of Delran. They voted for me for a third term. I will serve in their best interest. I will continue to serve as the mayor of Delran for the remainder of my term. One other item of interest. When I submitted the budget this year, there was no proposed increase in the 2019 Delran municipal tax. Mr. Catrambone wanted to raise the taxes when we didn't need to. It was supported by council. Be careful for what you ask for, because President Council wants to have the complete control of the Delran governing body, as well as the Delran schools. I can only urge the Delran voters to vote smart. Both parties should have representation on this council. Currently, there are no checks and balances in place. Thank
I
you.
just have one,
Comment on it.
with regards to the taxes. We were working with the school board at the time. We thought we were working with a fair proposal from the school board to help the children of Delran. And I think that's, just with that issue, I take exception, because I don't think we raised the taxes unnecessarily. Unfortunately, the school board didn't live up to their end of the bargain. We did not want to raise taxes, we were not going to raise taxes, but when they came to us and said they were going to have class 3 officers in the school, our police chief explained how they would work and why it would be better to have the class 3 officers, because it would be under the control of the police department, and they would use our, I guess, weapons and things like that in training, that we, I think, went above and beyond for the school board. As it turned out, the school board, I don't think, negotiated in really good faith with us. And after the budget was signed, sealed, and delivered, they decided to go another way. And that, if they decided to go the way we were willing to go with them, we would have paid for those class 3 officers, which would have been a good thing for a town council to do to protect the students of Delran. So I think that, yes, the taxes were raised, but they were not raised unnecessarily. They were raised really in good faith with a bargain that we thought we had, and we did have, until the superintendent of the schools decided he wanted to change the bargain and yet still expected us to pay. We do not pay for a town council. I would not vote to pay for a school board that is hiring a private company. That would be like me paying for Dunkin' Donuts or Ott's or the Delran Coffee Shop. So I really take exception to the fact that I feel that I'm being accused of raising taxes unnecessarily. I did it
I'm not
for the
blaming
good.
you. I'm
No,
just
but
saying, I
council, I'm
came
a
in-
part of council.
okay.
I'm a part of council. I'm speaking maybe
That's
for
okay.
council. That we did this, we discussed it, and we did it fairly, honestly, and openly. And I think if anyone is to blame, it's the school board and the superintendent, who did not live up to his end of the bargain, and then turned around and said, we did not follow through. We did, and we would have. And if he says in September, if he said in August, hey, we're gonna go with the Class 3 officers, that money was there, and it would be there for those Class 3 officers. The money is there now, and next year that'll be put toward, the tax, toward the budget, the surplus, so our taxes will remain low. Because I think you and Gary, all of us, Jeff, have managed this budget beautifully. And in the 6 years, or the 8 years.
Jeff and I handle the budget, thank you.
Yes, okay, well, I said that, I said that. But we also have input, and we vote, I think we've all done a good job on the budget for the 8 years that I've been on council. And I think that we did a good job this year. I think our decision-making was right with regards to the schools. I think the schools did not follow through. So that's the only exception I have with that at this point.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jamie?
Can I just want to make
Yeah.
clear that when you reference township solicitor, you're not referencing, I'm not sure who you're referencing, you're not referencing myself or my office, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
For the record, you were not attorney or
Yes,
record at
you
the
were not.
time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You
Sorry,
are.
Stu.
No problem, it's okay.
Jeff, you have anything?
Just 2 items, just for anybody that may have noticed, the Conroe Park is being dismantled, so the work is in progress. As you know, Jerry at the last council meeting explained that we have a contract for someone to take it away and pay us for the equipment, and we have, we'll follow that up with the new tot lot equipment once it's completed. Secondly, Jake's Place, as you recall, when it looked like we were going to be doing this in October for a build, had some volunteers lined up to help with it. They still have some volunteers, I think the number's down to like 6, and they're willing to offer those volunteers to help us when the equipment is delivered. We're going to receive all of that equipment and have to store it over the winter, to come in and help tarp it and tie it down and things along those lines. And I just wanted to make sure council's okay with accepting those volunteers to do that.
You recommended, I'm fine with it. Anybody else?
That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
We go around.
Okay.
You
know it's going to be blind.
Yeah, for those that are not familiar, all we ask is that you give us your name and your address before you.
June Howard, 31 Tivoli Lane. Yeah, I wanted to say a few things tonight. Everyone needs to realize that the unfounded and senseless accusations made by Council President Gary Catrambone and his lackeys against my husband not only involve him, but his entire family. We're a very tight-knit and supportive family. Anything that can affect us, those decisions we make together. Back in February, when some main players of the Democratic Party summoned Ken to a meeting, they basically told him that he should step down and be a team player. Basically, take one for the team, and let Gary be mayor. In return, once they feel the Democratic Party was going to take over the county, he could be offered a job in the county. If he chose not to step down, he was told that the Stellwag issue would be used as a tool of perception to smear and try to ruin him. Yes, he was told all this back in February, so we were prepared for it. When my daughter and I learned of this, we both had the same immediate reaction and told him there's no way he should ever consider such a thing. And the rest of our family all felt the same. You see, we all know the truth, no matter how much it is twisted and tried to meet political opponents' needs. The truth is the truth, and it's on our side. We stand firm in our beliefs and in our values. We have nothing to hide or run from. Gary made his plans with the politicos and told the council to expect a change, but to keep quiet about it. I know that's true. The rest of the council lied, misguided, didn't even have the decency to come and talk to Ken about the issue that Gary was secretly trying to use against him. No. Now, no one even bothers to acknowledge how Gary is continuing on with his ridiculous escapades. Seriously, anyone with an ounce of common sense would realize that if Ken did do something wrong, why would he stay as mayor in the spotlight and let himself and his family continuously be the target of political and social media bullies? Yes, right, bullies. Over the years, many fat people, family and friends and neighbors have all come to Ken asking for favors. His answer has always been, and always will be, no, that he can't and won't put himself into that position. Many times, this caused hard feelings with family, friends, and others. So, if he won't do a small thing, like even make a phone call for a family member, why would he do anything for a person he really doesn't know or associate with? Why would he put himself in that position? Quite simply, he wouldn't. What would he have to gain? And as far as the Facebook bullies go, not one of them has ever reached out to Ken to talk to him or meet with him to actually ask him questions and discuss matters with him. These trolls sit and wait to get their directions and stir the pot and do the dirty work of others. We all know I'll be next. Capital J, J-U-N-E. Okay, they assume that the people who live in town aren't smart enough to realize what they do. Many people have told us they won't comment on the site because people get attacked when they voice their opinions. So sad. And we wonder why there's an epidemic of bullying in our schools. So to my husband, Aubrey and I are very proud of you, and will always be. We know your true character and how you have always made sure things were done right for the right reasons. You have been the checks and balances that this council currently lacks. We know how much time and effort you have given to all the residents, and that you will continue to give for the remainder of your 2 years.
Hi, Pat Pomerantz, 21 Alden Avenue. I have a couple questions. I may not have understood entirely what you were talking about with how the people who are going to use our facilities, the township facilities, that are, I heard somebody mention like Girl Scouts or whatever, that you're going to do background checks on the volunteers. Am I understanding that properly? Okay, so when Calvary Church is over here, and I know we do a lot between the two, are you going to do background checks on all the volunteers from Calvary Church?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm gonna tell you something. I mean, nowadays, I mean, I would treat everybody equal. And in the way, and this is, I'm gonna speak up. Nobody else will, I will. And my feeling is, you have, unfortunately, the way things are these days, everybody's gotta be protected. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Where you're coming from.
Right, so Pat, my feeling is, yes, unfortunately, we would have to, I would think, check on all the volunteers that are actually interfacing with
But
kids.
does Calvary Church have their own, I mean, you know, they're an organization, I wonder if they have background checks on
They've
their...
never done a background check on me, and I'm in the nursery. Well,
you're
actually,
in
they
the
did,
nursery.
forgive me. They did do a background check on me because I'm in the nursery.
I was just
Right.
gonna say, they may
That-
have it in
yes,
place.
but not for anything else that I volunteered for.
Do you volunteer though for anything with children
I cook at the Ronald McDonald House
in,
Camden.
they may
But it-
have, yes, see,
Well, my question, added to that is, what kind of background check are you doing? What are you looking for?
It'll be stipulated in the memorandum we're going to do. We looked at samples of Burlington, Riverside, and Winslow, and I'm sorry, maybe the attorney is better off speaking about this as I'm not. It will stipulate, like I said earlier in the meeting, anybody that's working with children under 18.
No, I understand that, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
But I
okay.
want to know, there's only a handful of things out there you're going to check people for. So I would like to know what those are. I mean, are you just looking for,
Yeah,
please?
You want me to respond to that?
yeah, please.
So it's primarily a criminal background check, and that's done through the digital fingerprinting process, and they can do a criminal background check. There's been talk this evening of extending it to also include anybody who has anybody who has received and was disqualified or lost a license or a certificate that is issued by any governmental agency in the state of New Jersey. So sometimes people like,
Including driver's license?
well, not a driver, we're talking about a professional, like a dentist,
okay.
or a lawyer,
Understood.
or a teacher. If somebody's licensure and a teacher's certification, which is essentially the teacher's license, has been revoked because of something having to do with a matter of moral turpitude. So an administrative proceeding that doesn't reach the level of criminal, but it may have the same policy impact that in protecting children, which is the main goal. Those would really be the two areas that the background check would look for. So criminal and administrative loss of license or licensure.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I wanted to ask too, this event that you hold here, how many people are you?
No, I mean, like, we've had the Easter egg hunt on the high school, oh, I'm sorry, that was on the high school field. You know, and there's different things that are taking place. We're always using each other, like the trunk or treat, you know, our cars are gonna be parked here, and, you know, there's always something going on. I always hear, you know, Delran asked us to do this, and Delran asked us to do that, and, you know, we have quite a large congregation of people who volunteer.
I think, first of all, the only jurisdiction that we have is on our property, so if it's not on Delran's property,
No, I understand that.
right, and it's only for protection purposes, you know, for.
And you guys will pay for those?
We will pay for anything that's not involved with, I mean, Jeff, you wanna go into that?
We would pay for the sponsored, the township-sponsored events. If it's not a township-sponsored event, we wouldn't be
Okay.
paying.
I didn't want to say that.
And
Thank you.
if I could just add one thing, it's only, from my understanding, if you're working with children. So say, for example, you help with the veterans
Right.
thing, you know, that wouldn't.
Oh, I
you-
understand,
You know,
yeah.
so only.
18 and under.
Yeah,
I
you're
get it.
working with children, so that hopefully limits the scope. So it's not everybody who ever walks on the
Right.
property. Hopefully not.
Yeah, really, we'll get to that point, we're all in trouble. In regards to the arts request, was that a Sunday morning they wanted to open up at 8 o'clock?
Yes, Sunday.
Okay, well, I don't know how to put this other way than just say it, and that's, anybody knows me knows I just say it. I got a problem with what you said,
What was that?
in that you would agree that all council would agree that we should do that, but we don't have the time.
No,
Please
not
let me
that.
finish my
Okay,
statement.
okay, sure.
I think that if they're at odds until 2 in the morning, and they're gonna reopen at 8, you're gonna have a lot of drunks on the road, and we don't need them at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I don't care what odds has done or who they are, I would never give them permission to open up on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock if the president's coming.
Okay.
So, that's,
You're certainly entitled to your opinion.
thank you.
And-
No one else voiced an
Well,
opinion,
no,
only
no, what I was
yourself.
saying was, maybe I misspoke. I think we would like to be helpful to a person, a business in town.
Absolutely.
They're doing something that was very positive. I'm certainly not speaking for the other 3 council people here, I'm only speaking for myself.
Mhm.
The time that we don't have is the time.
No, I know,
do
to get the
important.
ordinance through
Well,
and get
you
it
said
through.
you just said
understand.
we didn't have time. That wasn't the reason. We don't have time to do an ordinance.
Right, that's what I meant.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that.
No, I understand that.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, the Stellwag project, and I don't care who's involved, not involved. May I ask, what is going to be built there?
It's a 55 and older community.
Townhouses?
I think there's
Yes.
townhomes and
A
single
mixture.
family homes.
Do we know how many?
Yeah, 200?
No.
One. If you have a number, we can get it for you, I just don't. I'm
It's
not
like in the area of
remembering.
150. We can get the exact numbers.
Okay, so 115, 2 drivers per household is 230 cars. Hartford Road is a nightmare now, and Hartford and Bridgeboro with the traffic. What do you think adding another 200 cars to that intersection is going to do? And am I also been given the right information that they're getting a tax abatement over there?
Yes.
So until the place is all filled, I buy one day one, I don't pay any taxes until all the units are filled.
No, that
Okay,
isn't
then
correct.
explain it to me, because I like to have the right information.
Well,
It's a 5-year abatement, so when the property owner gets a CO, the first year they don't pay taxes on the building, they continue to pay taxes on the land, so the amount that we're getting now will always get. And
Which
then
is minimal.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we would get 20% the first year 40, 60, 80, 100%. I mean, it's gonna differ because houses are gonna get COs at different periods of
Oh,
time,
sure.
but every
Yeah.
one of them goes 20% increase per year.
So it's not-
20%.
I mean, once I buy that place, my first year it's 20%, regardless if I'm the only person living in the development or not. Okay, good, I like that clarified for me. Thank you.
I do have a good news story, though. Hartford Road, we're gonna be getting
Yeah, I know, I read that.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good news story.
Well, it is, but I mean, it's just gonna be repaved, it's not gonna do anything for the traffic. I mean, you come out Hartford Green Creek Road right now, you wait forever to get out that road. Forever.
Hey, Ms. Pomerantz, if I could add real quick, I speak for myself, but I think some of the council members and the mayor have agreed before. I mean, I don't think anyone here who goes out and solicits developers to come in and build things. I'm sure you're aware, but we can't tell a developer they can't build on a piece of private property. You know, so I want you, please, I hope everybody understands, we're not out here, you know, let's put 300 homes on this piece of land and, you know, so be the red light with 300 cars. I think council, and before I even got on council, I know the mayor, Patty, Dan, they were very meticulous about limiting the homes that come into town, making sure it's very, they take into account the impact that it has. And we try to limit it as much as we can in the law, I'm sure.
And
Well, with
Pat-
all due respect, Mr.
Burrell.
Burrell. I was
Tyler.
gonna say Tyler.
Tyler.
Tyler, and I know
Fine,
that's
please.
not it. With all due respect, when the Fairview project was out there in the open, way before your time, they were gonna build 5 houses. And Mr. Catrambone said, we're going to buy that property because we can't take any additional children in the school and the traffic it'll put on Fairview Street. 5 houses. Now we're talking 115. And some of those people could have children going to our schools who are getting a tax abatement, and who's paying the taxes to educate their children until they get into paying the whole taxes.
Well, it
Pat,
is
I got a
it is
real problem with that whole project.
It is a 55 and older community, so the number of children, I think, if any, would be minimal, maybe not even non-existent.
And Pat, I would tell you that I felt the same way. I wasn't happy with it at all. I live in a condo associated community down in South Carolina. And when Lana Pangia was on the council, she and I worked, I will tell you, we went to every 55 and over community, every condominium community, and because I think the developer wanted a large number of homes, and none of us were happy with it, but Lana and I were really, I would have loved to stay in a farm, but it's private property, so we have no control. So we got it down to, we actually even took tape measures and measured the streets, because I know I was being people thought I was being a pain, but I said I measured the streets, because where I live in South Carolina, the streets are wide, it doesn't look overcrowded, and we said we wanted less and less and less, and they went down from, I want to say maybe 180, it was some unbelievable number, and then it did go down. They put they put pocket parking in that they didn't initially have.
What is pocket parking?
Pocket parking is every house is going to have 2 driveways, 2
They'll have a double driveway.
Yes, a double driveway. But I felt that when you had people visiting, where are they going to park? So there'll be cutouts for maybe 6 cars, and then a few houses, there'll be another cutout for 6 cars. So we'll keep the streets clean.
Down the street.
Down the street, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 houses you might walk if you're visiting, you could
So
park.
there'll be no street parking.
There'll
Yeah,
be
no
street
street
parking, I think, on one side, and if I'm not mistaken. But all I want to say, and I don't want to misquote, but I do know that Lana and it was, we really,
Well, I'm sure
really
that
worked
you did, Patty.
to get it.
Knowing you and knowing Lana, I'm sure that you did.
To get it to be manageable, where we had, the choices were minimal with regards to it. The Stellwag, they sold it, so, and that's what happened. So, getting it to be, I think, 55 was a big plus for the schools. Getting the roads to be a little wider, the property, the distance between the homes a little bit better, less homes, less townhomes, to have the frontage it wasn't gonna be all in a row. We, Lon and I looked and we liked them where they would be scattered and how they would have nice facades. And the builder did, I have to say, he did agree to do a lot of the things that Lon and I, brought to him. Now, I haven't, seen like plans yet because it's all been, waylaid by other things.
There are plans.
Yeah, all of
And
that.
and you don't know whether or not there's gonna be parking allowed on one side of the street. And that just you just said you're not sure that maybe they're gonna have it on one side of the street.
Do you remember?
What I can tell you is you're gonna have to go through the planning board to get site plan approval. All the site issues will be dealt with at the time of the planning board
Well,
application.
the only thing that going back in memory, and Summer Hill, and we all know that that's been a fiasco with the parking. And the big thing was the safety issue with the fire trucks.
Well,
A fire truck will not get down the street if you park on one side, and that's the truth over there.
And I
That's
think
the
that's why we talked about the width of the streets there, the pocket parking. I know that was all considered. I really, I know that it was.
But we don't have plans yet.
No, we have plans.
There's a conceptual plan used to develop the zoning, but it still has to go to the planning and zoning board for actual development plan approval, as well as the county, because it's running on Bridgeboro Road, who will also look at the traffic signal and the impact of that on traffic.
But I think,
There's more than, I know that there's more than sufficient on-street and off-street parking.
yeah, I think there is a lot of off-street. I think that was a big
Probably Summer
thing.
Hill, it was one-car driveways, one-car
Yeah.
garages that they converted, and there's gonna be 4 off-street parking spaces per unit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Patty.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that answers it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anthony Gonzalez, Jr., 25 Silverwood Drive. It's silly season, it's politics. One of the reasons I'm here, just everybody knows I'm running, and my one reason I'm here, Tyler kind of eased into it for me a little bit. I think he made the statement saying you couldn't stop them from doing it. I would disregard it, because if you didn't vote on it, how did they get here? Or if Ken wasn't involved, that's how you're claiming improperly he helped. But that's why I'm here, not to help Ken, defend Ken. What I'm asking council in this matter is, Gary Catrambone allegations came out. I'm not gonna give my opinion on one way or the other, or Ken's, the mayor, the president's council's allegations. What I'm here to ask is the council going to take the same actions that they did when they were investigating the mayor? I'm not looking at the right or wrong of it, but, in my opinion, it's all politics, we all know that. I mean, that's what it's all about. But the whole country's tied up in politics now. Republicans are fighting Republicans, Democrats are fighting Democrats. The one thing we have to be in township is fair. And so, my thing is, if you're going to investigate Ken, investigate Gary. You're not going to investigate Ken, don't investigate Gary. If you think it's going to be the finance board, let the finance board. But I think that to be fair, the township council take the same actions that they took with regards to the mayor. And that's all that I'm asking, is that the town council be fair from now till whenever, at least treat everybody the same. And Patty, Todd Epperly, regional commander, he could probably get you a gold star.
Okay.
Or at least a gold star.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, thank you.
Colin Rafferty, 206 Chestnut. I just wanted to say about the criminal background check that the Diocese of Trenton does every 3 years. I know Mr. Burl had a question about that. They do every 3 years. And that's to coaches, Catholic school teachers, as well as the Sunday school teachers. And I believe it's employees as well. That's all I have.
That's what they've been instructing me to put 3 years into it.
Thanks, Colin. That's also the 3 years, looks like it's
Pretty standard.
most of the sample background check. Jeff Davis. Chuck, nothing? Okay, motion to come out of public?
I'll make that motion.
Motion to close public?
I mean, motion to
Close public. Yeah.
To close public, to come out of it. No, to close public.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, folks.
We take a 5-minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.